So, unlike what the title is saying, this video in the back is not the one that failed. This project actually did pretty well and it's coming out on Steam soon. If you can please consider wishlisting that, I would really appreciate it. Now let's talk about this other project that you're going to see in the background. That's the project that kind of failed. Now, I don't want to ever say never for it to like work on it again, but it's quite unlikely. We're going to talk about what happened and how to learn from those mistakes and how to avoid making them in the future. So there's one very important caveat I want to say. Despite the failure of the project, I still had a lot of fun working on it. I loved working on it. I loved working with the people that I did on this small project. So this is not supposed to be like negative. It's supposed to be a little bit educational. Okay. Project was called Ghostly Service, which was like a side-scrolling ghost simulator game where you could possess any object in a hotel and use physics-based movement to scare guests away. Think of it kind of like a reverse Luigi Mansion situation combined with Neighbors from Hell. I don't know if any of you played those games. I grew up in a country where we had a lot of those internet cafes and we used to go and pay $1 for like half an hour of game time. And I used to go there with like $3 really excited, and I would spend the whole time playing Neighbors from Hell or Shrek, whatever the hell games they have. So I have great memories of that. So I decided like it's such a great like setting, kind of combine those two ideas together and let's make a game about it called Ghostly Service. The first problem, and this is a bit of a very generic problem because every game that fails has this issue one way or another. And how to avoid it, honestly, is a skill set on its own that you need to. The only way you will learn and how to avoid this is if you just make this mistake yourself and do it multiple times. And that's going to be design-induced scope creep. Now, I didn't just say scope creep, I said design-induced. There's a reason for that. Let me get into it. So, like games in early development have this unique ability to balloon out of proportion. Now, the reason why this game specifically scoped really fast is because I was like dreaming basically one day. I had this idea for like a game trailer where the first kind of like action line would pop up, text would pop up on the screen saying, possess everything. And it would be like this really catchy hook, right? That gets you into the video. Like, what? This is a game where I can possess everything? But of course, possess everything is going to lead you down a path where we have to pretty much program logic for everything. And it was a fool's errand to start with. Now, there was a way we could have fixed it, so I would want to talk about that too. But essentially what we did, we spent a huge chunk of time debating what could even be possessed in the environment instead of actually building the possessables. And instead of just sticking with physics-based movement possessables, we started adding special effects, unique animations, movement, and VFX to like these possessables that were not physics-based, such as like a book that you could possess and flap around the environment, which is like really cool and awesome. But imagine doing that for 10 to 20 other items in your hotel. And since you have a hotel, you have an interior space, you could totally imagine the stuff you could do, right? In a kitchen, you could possess the frying pan, you could possess the fridge door opening and closing or something. The only natural place it could lead to is something like this, where we just like, the vision became really blurry on what it was. So the main takeaway is that in a game like this, we should have started with hard limitations. In my previous game, we talked about how for our open world design, we kind of chose an island because the physical design space had like a hard limitation where we could focus that design space inside. I felt like we should have had some kind of a hard design limitation for this game because it just felt like we should have either stuck with only physics-based possessables or those unique possessables that have unique abilities and only keep it to like 10 in the whole game and make those 10 the best thing ever and make them combo off each other so you could use them in different situations around the hotel, for example. But it just, we never were able to make that decision. We wanted to do both at the same time, and I felt like it was just a bit too much for us to chew on. The second one, before I even say the second one, at the end of the day, I was the game producer on the project, so like if the project failed, the game producer should take most of the responsibility for it. I should be the one to blame, pretty much. All of us on the team contributed something to the project that eventually took it to this direction, but for number two, I have to take full responsibility. Is that poor GDD communication. GDD stands for Game Design Document. The game design document that I use for this project And I want you to see how absolutely insane it is. Like it all sorts of weird features and structure and stuff that honestly was useless. And the problem is, like, just look at how long this game design document is. It goes on and on and on, and it just does not end. And I mean, I took this template from somewhere online, and I even cut down maybe 70% of the game design document. It's still so massive. So you can already recognize some of the issues we have with this game design document. First, number one, nobody read it. And number two, it was so difficult to like update and keep up with it that I didn't even complete it. So like, how am I gonna communicate a clear vision if I have a game design document that is this long and it's not even completed or even good within my own personal standards? So what essentially happened was we had a person on the team constantly communicating. They could not see the vision of the game and they could not really grasp it. My GDD was an absolute monster that was not very clear and not understandable. At the end of the day, like, we game designers, like, don't get me wrong, I love reading books. I read a crazy amount of books. I even tried to start a booktube channel once somewhere else. You will never find it. At one point, but even I was not willing to read and keep myself updated and keep updating that document the entire time. It's very clear to me that a GDD should either have been a one-page document or even none at all. It should have been like a more visual kind of game design document laid out in a tool like FigJam or MeterBoard or whatever you want to use. It's very clear that I should have taken that approach. At the end of the day, I feel like game developers are more visual creatures and visual communication is much more effective than putting up this massive block of text. It's just boring. Game development should be fun. I feel like the organizational aspects of game development should also accompany that. Put in a small note in between number 2 and 3 here, which is just listen to your teammates, because like that person in the project, I should have taken their concerns about the vision far more seriously, because eventually at some point, like 3 months in, they did end up leaving the project, and that was largely caused by the way I handled the game design document, the way I did not fully showcase the full breadth and vision of this project. And the takeaway from the story is it is a constant and active effort to make sure that everybody is on board with the same goals of what the project is. And as a producer, you should absolutely prioritize that and not slack off on it. Even when you think people know what the complete vision of the project is and where we're going forward, you won't fully know if you're not listening to your teammates very well. So keep an open mind, open ear, open heart. I don't know where I'm going with that, but but yeah, listen to your teammates, dude. Number 3, appeal. When I first thought of the concept for this game, like a reverse Luigi's Mansion with neighbors from hell, I was like, this is a sick concept. It's unique. And then I proceeded to spend the next 4 months looking up on Steam and finding hundreds, I'm not even exaggerating, so many games with the exact same theme of the haunted hotel and the ghosts in it and a small twist around the whole ghost kind of character concept. I found so many of them on Steam. It became very clear quickly that this was not as unique of a concept as I had thought. So it became obvious that I needed to do some sort of market validation, because 4 months is not that long of a amount of time to work on a game, but it's also not nothing. And I wanted to make sure if we keep working on this project, if we keep continue, because we will all still ready and committed to continue working on the project. But I wanted to make sure that it was going to be viable for the market, that there was some kind of an appeal or target audience for it. Like, found this a trailer jam online. It was called Blue Ocean Trailer Jam, and it's essentially, it was like a publisher where they have this new system where people participate in competition like a game jam, but instead of presenting an actual game, like present a trailer, a gameplay trailer, and then the people get to rank it. And we eventually end up like submitting this game to that competition. What you're seeing in the back is a trailer for the main intention of applying to that competition, and we submitted. And we also submitted that other open world game that I showed previously on this channel. And when the results came in, the Ghost game ranked 200 out of 1046 games, and the open world like cycling game that I've showcased before ranked like either 46th or 64, somewhere within those line, within 1046 games. So it very clearly became that one had a much stronger appeal than the other. Now, some people said the trailer that we end up making was a bit too long winded and a bit too narrative for that competition, and that might be right. But I think at the end of the day, we tested the market appeal of these two pitches. Yes, 1046 people is not that massive of a number to test it on, but it's also not nothing. All of these people voted for these games. If they didn't find something appealing, it wouldn't have reached 200. Now, 200 is not nothing. It's impressive, but in this current market with how heavy competition is on Steam and other platforms, you want to make sure you have a concept that if it's within that 10% of games, I think that was like the safe spot for us, knowing that it was worth continuing working on this project, but it was not near that. We were in like the top 20%, which was just not good enough for us. I actually highly recommend you participate in that competition, the Blue Oceans one. It was quite a great way to validate our concepts and see if anybody was even interested. So yeah, that's pretty much the story of how Ghostly Service died and will probably never be released. You never know. Learning from this experience, kind of taking that, kind of now that now that some time has passed away and I've been able to reflect on what happened to this project, I hope to take my mistakes and kind of like constantly remind myself for future projects on like what not to do. I hope this was also useful for you all, and I hope you guys participate in that competition because it seems pretty fun. So you guys should submit your games there too and see if it has some sort of appeal. Okay, thank you for watching. Again, Wishlist the Game on Steam. Have a good one. Bye bye.